All right, everybody. So if you're not aware already, this is Sandra LaMorgese. She is the queen of how to not give a fuck. She used to work. So if I get this wrong, correct me. But if I remember from our first meeting, we did a podcast together on the Artsy Now show when I used to do podcasts. And Sandra came on and she talked about how she made this switch from just a traditional. You were in the holistic industry and you were kind of overworked and underpaid, and you weren't really sure what was out there that was going to spark you and make you happy. And so you kind of just took an extreme approach to something new. And at 55, you went to become a dominatrix blindly, just walked down. I remember you telling the story where you went down to this place and they were looking at you all strange. And you did that. And like, you got out of this comfort zone, and you're here today because I know that you are an advocate of authenticity and how it can relate directly to happiness. And when I put this sweet ass journal out, it's a practice for people to develop habits in their life that relate to happiness. So it's essentially like a fun, easy way to transition yourself from this feeling of not being excited and not knowing what you want to do, to really paying attention every single day, morning and night, to what's truly important and what you should be focusing on. You're the author of Switch, A Time for a Change. You have been on Howard Stern, Playboy Radio, Vogue, Glamour. You contacted me a while back. You were doing like the world's first public nude book signing. And you've done some other interesting things. You have some great YouTube videos that I suggest everybody looks up. They're quick. They're to the point. I mean, you may or may not see, dudes crawling around tied up in their asses and while she's casually talking and giving you a lesson. I mean, it's a brilliant idea. But being your authentic self is the key to discovering happiness. And so I'm really happy to have you here, Sandra, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on. And I figured we'd start by you just kind of introducing yourself, what you felt like in your traditional career and what led you to make this switch to the dominatrix, and how you've just kind of become this living proof that it's never too late to follow what excites you and find this kind of passion in places that you probably would have never thought your entire life it was possible to find them.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite the journey. And like you said, I was working as a holistic practitioner. I had my own award-winning wellness practice, but I really was working, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, just trying to understand where my life was going. I was like, wait a minute, I have no balance. I have no life. I was starting to do some interesting work in energy transmutation, kind of sexual empowerment, tantra work. So I started, working with all these different modalities that were new to me. And when I closed my center suddenly, it wasn't my choice. It was in the Great Recession and a lot of things were going on. You have to read my book to get all the details. But I really was 55 years old and I had no savings. And I had no one that could help me out with, financially or give me a place to live or anything. I mean, I was on my own. And a girlfriend, I had just spent, all this money, all my savings on renovating my center. So like all the money was gone. Like as an entrepreneur, we invest, right? We invest in ourselves constantly. We're growing. So I'm sitting in my apartment and I was just like, oh shit, what just happened here? I'm 55. No one was calling me back. All my friends disappeared. Family members were just going away. It was just like no one wanted to deal with this situation I was in. And I really couldn't believe it because I, had worked all these years and had an education and had all this experience. I was kind of in shock. And I was totally in shock. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do. At one point I was suicidal. I thought I had nothing else to live for. Like, where has my life gone? Where is my life? And then I decided one morning when I woke up that I was really grateful to have this opportunity that I have lost everything, and I had this whole clean slate to create whatever I wanted to create in my life. Like, oh, wait a minute, I could really like turn this thing around and just do whatever I want to do. Like my son was living in Texas. I didn't have little kids. And I was like, it's just me. I'm like, I could do, financially, I could figure this out. And then one of my girlfriends said to me one day, Sandy, what are you going to do? And honestly, and I said it in the book and I swear to it, this thought came into my mind and I just brewed it out of my mouth. And I just said, is it illegal to be a dominatrix? She's like, I don't think so. And I was like, yo, get the fuck out of here. That's not happening.
Do you have any idea where the thought came from?
Well, because maybe I was doing all this tantra work and this sexual female empowerment, and I was in the kind of this sexual zone, you know. I had no experience being a dominatrix. And as soon as I said it, I'm like, forget, that's crazy. And she's like, no, really. You know, you'd be walking the walk here. You're doing all this work. You should try and do it. And I'm like, who would hire me? Like, how would I even how would I do this? Like, and then I got curious. I went home, I Googled, like the rest of us, right? How to be a dominatrix in New York City. I found a website, a woman wrote, she had a blog, and she said she worked at this dungeon in Manhattan, and she only lasted one day because of the psychological and physiological torture. And I called them for a job. I was like, hello. And I just heard this voice on the other end that was just like, hello. And I'm like, I'm calling about seeking employment as a dominatrix. And this voice said to me, do you have pictures? And I'm like, sure. Like, I didn't know what she was talking about. I didn't want to say no to lose my chances. So long story short, you know, they must have had a big laugh because I sent them a picture of me in my underwear. I sent my boyfriend and my headshot when I was acting. And I'm sure they wanted like BDSM, like this big, huge leather and whips and stuff, photos. And they just ignored me, of course, because they just thought I was a fool. And then I just got so curious about it. And I was just like, God, if I could just do this, I mean, how empowering would that be as a woman, you know, not following the rules, doing what I wanted to do, like inspiring other people. And like, this would be great if I could actually pull this thing off. So I kept emailing them, and finally they broke down. And they offered me an interview on Christmas Eve. They sent me an email and said, would you like to come in Tuesday for an interview? And I went in that dungeon shaking my shoes off. I'm telling you, I was so scared. I thought, and it was pouring down rain, torrential rain. It took me 2 hours to get into the city, and I lived 20 minutes away from New York City. I mean, honestly, it was unbelievable. I was just like, I couldn't believe I was doing it. So walked down, opened the door, they buzzed me in. I walked down those stairs. A lady greeted me, and long story, I stayed down there for a year. I worked there for a year. And it was pretty amazing. It was like the most transformational experience of my life. And from there, I just knew I could do anything.
So,
I just knew I could do anything.
Well, and you have, and obviously it's been a huge inspiration for a lot of people, and you've created some really amazing things. And I'm a firm believer that, you know, everything that we ever desire or anything that could ever make us happy is just on the other side of our comfort zone, or sleeping on the other side of our comfort zone. And when something terrible happens, like you were at that moment in life where you didn't know which direction to go, and you made this transition, when those things happen, there's really three things that we can do. Like, we can either let it cripple us, where we just break down and stay that way. We can let it define us to where everybody knows us as that person who had that breakdown, or we can let it empower us by taking the positive outlook on it and using that as fuel to create this amazing life that we have. So you have obviously done the third, right? You've used it to empower yourself. How has that experience of being in that dungeon transformed you into a happier version of yourself?
Well, you know, I grew up very, you know, vanilla, very straight life. just really straight. I mean, I'm a yoga girl. I work out every day. I'm up at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning. I go running. Like, I'm into nature. Like, I just had no, and I was very judgmental. I was
Right.
very judgmental, and about anything that was a little bit out of the ordinary, because I don't understand it, and I've never had exposure to it. So, I mean, not that I never, but I really had very limited exposure to out of vanilla kind of suburban life. And when I got down in that dungeon, I really got to understand myself, how judgmental I was, and how different we all are. And that's so beautiful that we all have all these desires and hopes and dreams, and in every area of our lives, and we should explore them and be curious. And it just transformed me into a better, more loving, non-conditional person. Because when you get down there and you're dressing men in diapers and walking them around in the dungeon and as a cheerleader, whipping them, making them dance for people, I mean, that was just fun. And when you go into a session, that is what it is. It's two adults playing, having fun, and being non-judgmental and very vulnerable. Like, I had to allow myself to be vulnerable, to be empowered, really. I had to not take myself so seriously. And I mean, honestly, when you can nail a guy's balls to a cheese board, I mean, that takes nerve.
Yeah.
And it really, you have to really put yourself out there to be very vulnerable and courageous. Of course, safety first, of course. But I just felt like it just made me so brave and so courageous, and like I didn't care anymore. Like, I don't give a fuck, like you said. That's why.
Give no fucks and kiss no butts.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't, and that's very empowering and freeing.
How do you think that's related to, getting that energy into writing a book and organizing this new book signing and all of those things? I mean, you obviously have to deal with the fear of being judged by others, and you've gotten over that fear. Did you get any backlash or judgment from the people?
I do. I get hate emails every single day. I mean, threats. People tell me I need psychological help. They write these nasty things on my my blogs, but I just feel like they have the right to speak their minds too.
Right.
Like, I can't even judge them. But for me to be able, I mean, you have to really allow yourself to be vulnerable. So once I got into the dungeon and I really got more confident about being authentic and owning who I am, like, it's just who I am. And if you don't understand that, then we're not meant to be around each other. So then when I escalated out into my book and the nude book launch party, and the reason I did the nude book launch party is because I had my book launch, originally it was going to be at a wellness expo up in Massachusetts. I mean, I put down the down payment, I did all the interviews, I had the table all set up. I was going to do a speak on fear, letting go of fear. I was going to do a speaking engagement that weekend on letting go of fear. They got a hold of me about a week later and declined and sent me my check back.
Oh, wow.
And said they could not show my book cover at their show because they didn't want to upset anyone. And at first I broke down, I cried because I put all that energy into it. And I was just like, oh, why do I keep getting this friction, But then so I said to myself, don't get upset, just relax and let the universe, let your thoughts come in. Let's see what surfaces. And then one day, about a week after being rejected, I had a thought. I said, you know what? I'm going to have the first all-nude book launch party in New York City to celebrate authenticity of sexuality and freedom of our voices. And that's what I did.
So at first it hit you and it kind of let it cripple you a little bit, but then you ended up getting over that and letting it empower you, obviously.
Yeah, again. So, like you said, perhaps like this big trauma in my life has really taught me how to know that I can handle anything.
Right.
And it's just a hiccup, and just like let it settle. Don't panic, don't do anything crazy, just let it settle, and the solutions will come. And I found that that's to be true for me.
And it comes with a mindset, right? So like once you were able to adapt this into your mindset and you understand the awareness of when a situation hits you, how you can respond to it. So obviously you've been able to overcome that. And in my journey, the biggest problem for me for 28 years was I always let it cripple me. And when people were judging me, I felt it and I held on to it, and it was disabling. As soon as I decided that I wasn't going to allow others to judge me. But what you mentioned earlier was how when people are judging you, you're okay with that because they have a right to do it. And I think that's the other side that not a lot of us think about is, yeah, they're judging me like this, but we all have a tendency to hate them or to feel bad or to disagree with them. But what we're doing there is we're allowing them to take our energy, and we can be using that energy that we're giving them from their judgments into something much more amazing, something that actually creates happiness for us. So that's huge for everyone to think about. I think that's a brilliant point. I'm going to open this up for live Q&A. And at some point at the end, I would love for you to talk about this whole vibrational energy thing. I want to know more about it, and kind of, actually, why don't you just go ahead and go an overview of that first, and then we'll open up Q&A because somebody might have a question about that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a spiritual person or you ever done energy work, I mean, everything in the universe vibrates, and there's a vibration of everything. Our mind vibrates, our thoughts vibrate, our hearts vibrate. We're all just one big ball of energy, and every single thing around us has that energy also. And different emotions and different thoughts have different levels of vibration. So if you could get, like we're doing right now, like we're manifesting stuff because it's like the mastermind alliance, like we're all on the same page. We got all this energy going on. Everyone can feel it. I'm sure that's on this chat, right? And I feel it. You're feeling it. It's so great. So that's energy, and that's vibration. So what that's doing, it's like a positive, really great force that's being sent out there in the universe. So everything else in the universe that's on that vibration is coming back to us. It's that whole goes around, comes around thing. So if you're in really a negative energy and a really angry or jealous or envy or any of those really feelings that don't make you feel very good, they have a very low vibration. So when you're in that low vibration, you're actually manifesting that to come towards you. So you're going to stay whatever that vibrational energy is. So, I mean, it's impossible to stay up into that vibration constantly, like really, really high, but you can do it a lot. And I feel like I get that in my sessions.
Yeah.
My Dominatrix sessions, because we were just having so much fun, and it's like all this energy, and it's great. Or like a speaking event, or like this, or anything that makes you feel good out in nature, like that is really causing the universe to conspire to bring all that energy towards you. And things will happen that are going to amaze you, because I know, because they're still amazing me every single day. I'm like, oh shit.
Every day, all day.
Like, I don't know where every day, even when you got hold of me.
I mean, every time I do anything, I feel that type of energy. If I'm meditating, even doing like vibrational hums, you get the energy. But really, just when you're around somebody who's really happy, the plainest example is it makes you happy, right? And that just expands. Like at the World Domination Summit over this past week, like it was such a high energy. It was insane. I mean, everybody was happy. Everybody was smiling. Everybody wanted to talk to each other. You don't get that a lot when you're just walking down the street. People are usually closed off. You get the cold shoulders. But if you take the initiative to say hello first to people that aren't so open, you can transfer that energy to them. And in a position to where you're trying to build happiness at home, for instance, a lot of people, they have issues because the people around them are not supportive of what they're trying to work towards. Stay positive. Understand that they are just, caring about you. They look at it in a different way, but stay positive and do your thing, because once you start being this ball of energy, it's going to wear off into them, and they are going to start transitioning themselves.
You can't help it. It's contagious.
Yeah, it's very infectious
Yeah,
in a
people
good
just
way.
love. They want to be around people that are, have a really great positive energy. I mean, don't you hate being around someone that's a bummer? You're like, oh
Yeah,
God.
we call them gremlins.
Yeah. Oof.
We work to defeat gremlins. So, um, okay, the way this is going to work is anybody that has a question, just open it up. Sandra has amazing answers. We might actually, a question answer could last a couple minutes in some cases. So we'll try to get to as many as you have. If you have more than one question, go ahead and ask them.
And I'm open. I'm open.
And just I don't know if we're going to get something through the chat, but if somebody has a question, I can see most of you, or raise your little hand in the chat, or unmute yourself and just ask a question. Paul, you got a question? What's up, man?
What's going on? What's going on, guys? Yeah, no, my question is like, even though when you get like these haters and all these people are just messaging you and stuff like that, how do you like let it, like, how do you like deal with it? How do you like tell this inner voice? How do you keep going? How do you like, so for me, like I do get them like every so often as well too, for like, it feels like every 100 amazing positive reviews that I would get, that one negative would always just bring me down.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, sometimes it really gets to you. And then, so like, I always talk to myself like, you know what, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe this imposter syndrome, maybe I'm kind of deal. So how do you overcome that?
And that's really hard. And I still deal with it every single day like you, because we're all human and we all have emotions and we all have feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just misunderstood. So I just kind of, and I do, and I'm the same way. I can have 100 people say something nice to me, and that one person that gets on one of my articles and says something really nasty to me, like you're a cow, you're this, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know me. And it does get to me. So I try and think about where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
This person is trying to agitate me. This person doesn't know me, and they're just really just trying to agitate me. So I really don't spend a lot of time and energy on comments. I mean, if I ever I stopped really reading my comments on my Huffington Post blogs and the other blogs, a long time ago, because I'm a human being. And I am going to be affected by it. I saw an interview with Tim Ferriss, and he erases all negative comments.
Does he really?
Off his blog.
Nice.
And so it's like, it's kind of, you have to separate yourself from it, and you have to understand that it's going to happen. But it's really not you. It's somebody trying to push your buttons.
Yeah, try to take your energy.
Yeah, someone's just trying to say, if you see it more like a game, and
that's a good idea. Look at it as a game.
I kind of think of it as a positive way, because they're giving my blog attention. So they're actually raising up my what's the word I'm trying to think of? Exposure on the internet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Reframing something that
they're actually working for me. So every time if I get 20 nasty remarks on my blogs, I have to look at them as if like they're actually helping me, because a lot of times people will take a defense in my case and feel sympathy for me and start arguing with those people. So it's kind of like a game, and I'm like, so I see them like my little slaves. Like, write the nasty stuff. I don't care, because the more nasty stuff you write about me, the more exposure I'm going to get, and the more people are going to read my stuff, because the haters make you famous, because they're the one you're pushing. And by being authentic and doing your material the way you want to do it, you are actually creating an emotion in them. Like, you're causing them to have an emotion, and they're attacking, or they really just want to agitate you. And people do it, they do. They just love doing it. That's what they do. They sit around all day long. They don't have a job, and they just go around the blog. So try and think of them as your little slaves. They're actually
all right.
With your exposure.
Like Paul at the World Domination Summit over this last week, I walked by a table where there was a group of guys sitting there drinking beer, and they were asking people that had the name tags on, what is this conference for? And I heard him say, well, it's a gathering of a lot of people who are nonconformists, who love to travel and just be different and follow like, you know, what they love. And he just goes, well, that seems stupid. Why are you guys gathering then? And I was just like, that's a prime example. Like,
Yeah.
I laughed and like walked on, but like the people that he said it to, they were like, well, what do you mean? And they sat there and started coming into the defense mode, which just kind of gives him power because that's what he's trying to do. Right. So
I never respond.
the
Never
troll
respond.
method. I'm a troller. I troll them back. Usually.
Yeah,
I do
never
the game
respond to
thing.
them. It gives them the power if you respond.
It does a little bit, but if you can respond and cripple them, it's probably not a great thing, but that's what I try to do sometimes.
Yeah, if you're going to respond, cripple them.
Cool, Paul. Do you have a follow-up on that at all?
No, it's good. No, I appreciate it. No, it's just because I've been very fascinated with that because I've been trying to deal with that, get away from that, so that way you can perform better in every aspect of your life, right? So appreciate it, Sandra and Heath, for that, man.
Yeah, just think about how they're actually helping you. With their,
that's a good way. That's a great way to look at any situation that seems negative between people or just gremlins trying to run your life. It's like, how is this helping you?
I'll tell you what I always think of, Paul. I always think of Barnum and Bailey. Because the circus, Barnum, they said to him, you're in all the papers and everyone is talking to you. He's like, I don't care as long as I'm in the papers. I don't care what they say.
Yeah.
As long as I'm in the papers, who cares? You know, so it's not exactly what they say. It's really about how they're helping you. That's some nasty stuff.
Appreciate it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks. JC, you have a question? Your lower hand is up.
Yeah, it's my right hand. I'm left-handed though, so obviously this program discriminates against left-handed excellent people. But yeah, Sandra, I was curious, your story at that point where you're sitting there going, I could do whatever I want, and you go, I wonder if it's legal to be a dominatrix. And you go, nah. I find everyone has that moment. But you said it brilliantly. It's like, but you got curious. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, and I'm personally curious, but I'm wondering what it is about your experience or your life up to that point that instead of going, that is stupid, and walking away, your brain went, well, what if? And how does a person cultivate that so that in that moment of crisis they start actually exploring as opposed to shooting down their best ideas?
Well, I think what happens is, in my experience in my studies in the subconscious, is that second thought, the first thought is your conscious, and your second thought is the subconscious keeping you from achieving your goals. So when I said, is it illegal to be a dominatrix? And she said, no. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. That was my subconscious saying, no, you can't do that. That can't be, that's not what nice ladies do or whatever. My subconscious was keeping me from taking such a risk. And so that's the subconscious. So first of all, when you experience yourself doing that, your conscious and your subconscious can work together. So when your second thought is, like people say, oh, I want to lose 20 pounds. Your second thought is going to be, oh, forget it, I'm not going to do that. Or what am I going to do on the weekend? And how am I going to do that? You know what I mean? That's your subconscious keeping you from your success because you don't think you're worth it, or there's some fear there. You don't value the situation. So what I think for me, knowing that alone does help me daily to keep me from not pursuing my curiosity and doing things. But I think my life up until this time, especially as a practitioner, I was always out on the fringes. I was doing colon hydrotherapy, ozone therapy, oxygen, like all these different therapies that, were not in mainstream. So I was already believing like a different way. So when I got curious about it, I've always been deep down a curious person, about, and I kind of like to have fun, and I mean, when I was in college, I studied communications, and I learned, I really had a great professor that really encouraged me to take a lot of risks. So for example, I actually got 2 awards from his class, from my peers, and one of my speeches, I had to be a disgruntled participant at a political rally. So the whole entire time leading up to what my topic was going to be, I kept thinking, who is a horrible politician? Who's a terrible politician? And I want to be, I want to be this person that's rallying against him or her. And then I had this thought, and I was like, wait a minute, why don't I let them like the politician and hate me? So I ended up being a KKK member at a Martin Luther King speech. And I was so afraid to get up there and do that, like you don't even know, because I'm not a racist or bigot or like anything. And I was so scared. And I really got a lot of praise for having the nerve to do that. So I think if we step out of our comfort zones, we really can make an impact. And I'm not afraid to not be liked or hated. I don't want nobody wants to be hated. But I'm okay with it. I'm just okay with it. And I don't like it. And I'm not saying I don't struggle with it. And, because I'm a human and I have feelings, but I think that I'm a risk taker.
And it helps transform you personally with those experiences.
Yeah.
It's like a healing process.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, anytime you're in a non-judgmental environment, it's healing. I mean, to take those kind of risks. I mean, to build an extraordinary life, you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to do things that you just are just way out there, whatever that is for you.
I did the nude bike ride in Portland 2 weeks ago.
How was that?
So that was a big step up.
How was the seat sitting there?
It was painful. I was more worried about other people than I was myself. I'll tell you that much.
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have any techniques that you use or recommend that help people like get a handle on their subconscious and kind of learn to differentiate that voice or mute that voice or even change that voice?
Yeah, I think I'm actually a practitioner, certified hypnotherapist, and I have been practicing meditation now for about 8 years. So I think what we need to do is we need to really get into reprogramming our subconscious, because it's a computer and it's got files in it and it's there, and you have to and every time someone pushes our buttons, that file opens up. Like we all know it. Like you could be doing something and every single time you do it, you think of something in the past that it may be negative towards that action. I mean, it happens to all of us, but that is programmed into our brains, into our subconscious. And through meditation or hypnotherapy and a lot of other different techniques out there, you can actually reprogram that, through mantras, because you're just rehearsing what you are now. So if you want to meditate in the morning and you're saying, I am safe and secure, I am healthy, like eventually you're going to be going, oh, yeah, I am healthy. And you're going to start you're just going to start being healthy. So it's really about, I feel a big part of that is reprogramming that computer chip, because it's just a computer. We are not our minds. If we were our minds, then we couldn't observe ourselves.
Right. It's amazing how deep that stuff can get transplanted and how meditation can have a gigantic effect on it. Because
it does have a gigantic effect.
Even with health issues, like when I went through this weird phase of what I would consider very much like a vertigo thing, and all the doctors are like, well, we don't know what it is, you can't get rid of it, but I literally feel out of my body. I can't focus. My head is just like pounding, and I like feel dizzy all the time. I got rid of that by a deep meditation. That's no joke. I did I've talked about this before in the group, but I did a Rise of the Phoenix meditation where you basically, it takes your subconscious underground, and you're kind of like, you just get these native people like dancing around you. Like it puts your imagination in a place to where then you decide what you want to let go. And essentially it goes into this fire and you're kind of imagining it come out of you and go up. And when I came out of that meditation, I haven't had any symptoms since, which is insane to me. And that was a huge kick up on the power of like really affirming to your mind what's possible and what's not, because that's why I've included in the journal the whole affirmation side of it, because if you write down every single day what you are trying to become, it will happen if you're putting action in place to go alongside of it. Now, if you say, I want to be 700 pounds or I want to be 70 pounds lighter, 700 pounds. If you say I want to be 70 pounds lighter every single day, but you eat, fried chicken and on the couch all day, you're not taking action to make it happen. So it won't happen. But if you say it and you're actually taking action in line with it, it will happen. And it's a very powerful thing for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, the mind really tells, as a practitioner, I understand that the mind tells the body what to do. And whenever I go out and do speaking engagements, I always use two really simple examples. So one example is I have everyone close their eyes and picture themselves going into a kitchen and taking a lemon out of the refrigerator and biting into it. Automatically you get that going, right? Salivation. So the mind is telling the body what to do. You actually visualized it and you made it happen. So if you tell yourself you're sick all the time, you're tired all the time, you're old all the time, you're this, you're going to be it. And another really great one is, how do you have an orgasm in your sleep if the mind isn't telling the body what to do?
That's true.
How is that possible? Like you're having a dream and you're having a sexy dream and you have an orgasm in your sleep. That is powerful that the mind is telling the body what to do. So there you go.
JC?
Two simple ones.
Okay, I think JC's got his mic mute, but I think Casey had a question, and I know Deborah has one. Casey, I think you posted yours first. I'm going to unmute you. There you go.
Hi. I know that the career change from one thing to the dominatrix was a huge moment. What has been your biggest aha moment since you've changed? So post dominatrix.
My biggest what?
Aha moment, like kind of like altering, like you can't believe that happened. It's just a huge thing for you.
I think what a really huge thing for me was really to come out on the, to get my own Huffington Post blog. And for me to get that, I really had to be vulnerable. And when I say Huffington Post blog, I don't mean just inside the Huffington Post somewhere. I mean, my ass was on the front cover every week or every other week. And I was talking about stuff like, I'm growing back my bush and I don't care what anybody says. I mean, I was like, oh boy. But when I got the offer to write for the Huffington Post, and my editor was really great and she supported me, I had to make a decision to go for it. Like, was I going to be mamsy-pamsy about it? Was I going to be fearful and not really go for it 100% and just be really wishy-washy? Or did I just want to say, fuck it, and just go for it? And I did. And I was just like, I made that decision. And I was just like, you know what? Let the cards fall. Let's see what happens. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be out there in front of millions of people. Like, I didn't realize myself how big it was going to be. But when I would see my articles on the front page, I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, oh my God, I did it again. But yeah, she was really, really great. And I think that was the big aha moment, was not only to go into the dungeon and discover who I was, but when I came back out, I went such high profile about it. Yeah. And I had to really be brave. And I was really scared. I'm not going to say I wasn't scared.
Were you scared for the book signing, the nude book signing?
I guess I wasn't really so much. I mean, I was stressed out about it because, it was like my first book and doing all this. But I had taken some risk and did a couple of nude events.
Right.
Like that year.
So you were a little bit. Well, how was the first one that you did?
Pardon me?
How uncomfortable was the first one that you did?
Nude event?
Yeah.
It was horrible. I didn't want to go. That's actually what got me the Huffington Post, my own blog. Because I went to that event and my girlfriend, her boyfriend, had been trying to talk me into it for the longest time. And I'm like, get out of here. I'm not going to a nude beach. I'm balls hanging down. I'm like, no way. I'm just not going. I would never allow myself to be that vulnerable, to show, cellulite or things I always hide with the bathing suit. You know how that is. And I just was not going to do it. I was just not going to do it. But I really loved this couple, and I trusted them, and they said, "Come on, let's do it." And I said, "Well, if I'm going to do it, I'm taking my photographer with me, and I'm going to document this thing because
Good for you.
I'm really scared." I mean, I went canning. I was decorating everything. I was like, "Oh boy, let's do this thing." And then when I got there, it was the most amazing experience. Like, I wasn't afraid at all. Like, I just loved it.
Wow.
It was so freeing, and I just loved it. I mean, honestly, I just loved it. And I went to a couple of other nude events. I got body painted in New York City, out on public streets in New York City, which was pretty amazing. So when I did the new book launch party, I wasn't that nervous about being nude. But I was. I mean, I was petrified. But on the other hand, I knew from my own experiences of going to nude events that once I got there, I would be okay. I would be safe.
So taking yourself to that extreme state of vulnerability was your big aha and takeaway of how amazing it makes you feel when you get to that point.
It empowers you. You cannot get empowered. I mean, for me, I could not get empowered until I allowed myself to be vulnerable. Until I let go of the control and not worried about, I mean, you do up until the moment you're doing it. I'm not saying that, like, when I was at that body painting day in New York City, I was just like, am I losing my mind? I am in this line and I'm like, I am leaving. This isn't a new beach here. Like, everybody's out on the street walking around. I'm like, I'm crazy. But then when I got my clothes off, I had so much fun.
That's how you defeat a gremlin.
Oh, and then when the whole damn thing was over, I walked back to Penn Station the same way. I said, I don't have any balls if I don't walk back to Penn Station like this. I did.
Wow, that's awesome.
Nobody cared. You're new in New York City. I did have a couple guys take pictures with me, but I just thought, I don't have any balls unless I do this. Like, it's okay when you're in a group. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And I did it. I had pink paint all on my sheets and bathroom from my trying to get that off.
I feel like Sandra has bigger balls than me now.
No, I don't know. I'm not telling you I'm not scared, because I am. I'm not saying that I'm not going into these things like, oh boy, because I am. I really am. So, but I do it, but I force myself to do it, I mean, it's innocent. It's not, it's not like I'm doing anything crazy.
When you catch your mind going down the rabbit hole of fear, are there any like habits or things that you have in place that you do, maybe even like a little game with yourself on a daily basis or whenever you catch it that kind of help you get your mind back on track? Yeah,
I kind of observe myself doing ridiculous things. Yeah, I just like, what is wrong with you? You know what I mean? Like, here you are, you're so insecure and so afraid. What could possibly happen? Like, I observe myself doing these actions, you know,
kind of like from out of body, like looking at yourself.
Yeah. And just observing my own thoughts and just seeing how crazy I'm making stuff up. It probably isn't even going to happen, and it never does. So I kind of really do observe myself. And I do see how foolish I'm acting. I mean, you should have saw the shit I was going through before I went to the new beach. I mean, what was I trying to do? I was just trying to I was still trying to cover up the shame. You know what I mean? Like the private parts, the cellulite, the stretch marks with tanning every day, before I got there. So I was still trying, and I looked at myself doing it. Like, what are you shameful of? Like, what are you so embarrassed about? And that goes with like my writing or anything else I do. Like, there's insecurities come up, and I just look at myself and I'm just like, this is not the reality. You're just making this up. And then once I get through the event or get through this process, I come out on the other side much more empowered. So it's just fear and anxiety. And
everybody's going to take their pants off now. This reminds me, so like in the journal, there's a quote, if you guys have gotten to, it looks like 9% done. it's a Seneca quote that I love, and it's, there is nothing so wretched or foolish as to anticipate misfortunes. What madness is it in you're expecting evil before it arrives? So it's that whole idea of, Seneca was a smart dude. I mean, he was pretty thug life, if you ask me. But like, we do have a tendency as humans to just always think the worst case scenario, because it goes back to the brain development over a long period of time, and we don't have to get too much into the science of it. But when you were talking about that, like, that's what I was thinking of. We shouldn't be scared of things that haven't happened, because most likely that's not going to happen ever.
No, it's never.
You know what I mean? And when it does, we're not expecting it anyways, so there's no reason to worry about it beforehand.
Yeah, we make stuff up.
Right.
We just make it up. We have, and it's the same script, isn't it? You wake up in the middle of the night and because you're worried about like a meeting or something you have to do the next day where you're going to be really vulnerable and put yourself out there, and you just have the same script all for an hour, laying in bed, and you're just saying the same thing, and you just made it up.
Right.
It's all made up. So watch yourself doing the script. The script is fun.
I'm here Googling new beaches in Toronto right now, actually. I actually am, actually.
Deborah, do you have a question? You get your hand up?
Yes, I do. First, Sandra, I want to tell you I love you. This is amazing. This is so amazing for me because I'm 55. I'm exactly at that same point that you were. The only difference is I didn't lose a successful business. I never really accomplished one. I had severe social anxiety growing up, and I kind of was an underachiever because of that. I learned how to siphon off of other people's courage, like a husband, friends, and I pretty much was a housewife for a long time, and I actually raised my kids to be what I wanted to be but couldn't be. And they are just these amazing grown kids now. I love everything they're doing. And really my question is about family. Do you have any issues with your family? I know with me, my kids have always known I'm off, I'm off one way or another, and they love it. They love me. They love who I am. But things that I'm trying to do now, I'm at that point now where it's fuck it. I'm just gonna. I got shit to do.
Yes.
I'm gonna do it.
I love your accent.
I'm from Mississippi, so. But anyway, sometimes it shakes my kids up a little bit to hear where I'm at, because they still think of me as mommy. One of my kids is a little less conservative than the other, and he's like, fuck yeah, Mom, let's go. The other one's a little more like, I don't know, Mom, you're 55. So just any advice you have with dealing with that. Did you have any issues with your son?
I do have issues with my son, and I do have issues with my family. But however, I had to say to myself that there are going to be things that I'm going to do and who I am that some people are not going to like, even if those people are my family. And I wanted to be so authentic in my living that I had to take that risk and take the consequences. And there are consequences to being authentic. And I'm not saying that there's not. So I definitely feel, it's painful. Anyone that's ever had to be authentic or out, like you said, out there off the wall and do your own thing, there's going to be consequences. And with my family, there definitely is. I mean, they're coming around, but honestly, they're on my Facebook and they're on my stuff, but they don't really like my things. Like, they'll like my cats in the morning I put up, or they'll like other little fun things. But when I talk about things that makes them fearful, they stay away from it. When I went to visit my sister, she's like, come on down, but, don't tell anyone what you do, because, you don't have to fight with anyone. So it's just their issues of judging me.
Yeah.
But it's really, like, don't you remember who I am? You know, like, I'm your mother, I'm your sister, I'm your aunt, you know? So you have to remember who I am. I'm still the same person, only a better version, I feel. You know, and this whole experience was, and it still is, and has really made me a lot happier and more confident and more loving person. And they come around. You're gonna get it, but and be ready for it. It's really hard, but they'll come around. But like I said, I just felt like if I'm gonna be authentic, and I'm really and I believe in myself, and I know who I am. Some people are not gonna like that, even if they're my family.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to suppress us, like anyone that comes out that's gay or like anything that's really not suitable in mainstream, you know, transgender or whatever it is, you know, or your politics, you know, if you, I mean, it could be anything really, but I think if you go, I think you could expect it.
Okay.
You can expect it, but you'll get through it, and so will they, and everyone's going to hopefully come back around. And, you know, maybe they have to look at themselves, too, about how they're judging you.
Yeah.
And you're their mother, and I don't know if your parents are still around or not. My parents passed, so I didn't have that. But
I have that. My parents are still here, so I have it from both ends, so.
Yeah. I mean, you could definitely expect that to happen. Especially people that, you know, you're pushing emotions. So when you want to do something that people are not going to agree with in their family, there's a lot of emotions involved in that. Even like marrying someone that they didn't approve of. You know, you're like, oh, this is who I love and this is who I am, and I'm marrying this person. Even if it went totally against all their beliefs. Like, you're going to have conflict. But that's a part of being authentic and living your life the way you want to live. And there are consequences, so please take them to heart. Like, you know, how much can I take, and, you know, how much do I really want to give up?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Casey, you have another question?
Well, it's not really a question, it's a comment.
Okay.
My dad was an erotic artist. Well, first he was in bands growing up, then he became an erotic artist, and then he worked at a porn store for most of my childhood. And a lot of the family wouldn't talk about it. Like, they wouldn't. I was told, you know, in high school, you don't say anything about where your dad works. So what did I do? I told frickin' everybody because I didn't care.
Right.
You know? So there are people and there's family members that can be pretty good about all that. So if you guys don't have them, I will be that family for you.
There you go. So what happened? Did your family, they just didn't talk about it?
Well, yeah, we didn't.
Like my family, they don't talk about it. Everything is like, you know.
Yeah, but for me, I mean, he passed away now, but I had no problem with it. I don't care. I talked to him about it in front of people.
Sure.
Fuck them. If they don't like it, they can get up and leave.
Right.
No, I don't have time for that. So,
yeah, why judge?
Yep. He was a good artist, too.
I love artists. Good.
That's all.
Yeah, that's nice. And thank you for the feedback. And, you know, Deborah, I'm sure that you love listening to that. Like, you know, anything you do that people are uncomfortable with, there's going to be a little price to pay. But there will be the ones that will stand by you. Like you said, you have the one child that's the one child that's going to be like, go for it, fuck it.
He's naked on his album cover, if it's the same kid that you're talking about. Or is it a different son? Deborah?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. No, it's the naked one. He loves to be naked.
There you go.
So she's taught him well, right?
There you go.
Along that same front, Lindsay sent this question over to me earlier, and I thought it was a really good question to ask you. And since you were kind of talking about this horizon, but what if being your authentic self doesn't necessarily go against the people around you's beliefs, but what if it goes against your beliefs? If you realize that your authentic self isn't really what you have grown up to believe, how do you cope with that? And if you haven't ever been in that situation, it might be hard to answer, but just wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
So give me an example. I'm not sure I understand what.
Kind of like if you grow up gay, but you're Christian. Kind of like that.
Yes.
Okay. So you grow up and you're gay, but you're Christian and you can't come out, or I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's an internal battle. So like if you are raised in an area, like say a Christian church that everyone is against it, which is along the same lines of what you were just talking to, you don't know if you should be against it or not, but you're feeling, hey, I might be gay.
Like you're going for it.
Right. Yeah. How would you cope with that and try to transition it into something positive?
I think baby steps, I think, we grow and we develop our authentic selves as we go. And I think that we might go a certain way and maybe find out that that's not the way we want to go at all. And we might turn left and we might turn right. But I feel like for myself, I always go into like baby steps and like stay in a really keep myself safe, to see emotionally, not even so much about what other people think. Try and make it's a journey. I think
right.
Authenticity is a journey. And I think baby steps, like just going into
test the waters.
Test the waters.
See how it makes you feel.
Yeah, see how it makes you feel. And if it makes you feel good, and then you will know that.
Yeah.
And I think you already know that.
And it's kind of the same thing with work, like the type of work that you're doing. I mean, you could kind of relate that same principle to everything, even just daily decisions. Does it, test it? Does it make me excited? You will know. And if it does, go with it. Right.
Yeah. And if it doesn't, then you kind of veer off in another direction. And that's like experimenting and being curious and trying to develop yourself. And I think that we become like authenticity is like a whole lifetime of, as a healthcare practitioner, I was being very authentic and doing the kind of practices I wanted to do. And I got a lot of, feedback from that, negative feedback from that also. And I understood it and I practiced it. So I mean, that's a far cry from things that I'm doing now. I would have never, ever expected in my life, ever. But it's my authentic self now. So I think baby steps, the journey.
Awesome. JC, you got a question?
Yeah, actually I did, although I thought, oh, never mind. I'm just being crazy. So yeah, I guess this is actually a little bit more practical. As an experienced and famous dominatrix, two-part question here. One is, what have you learned dealing with many different types of people in terms of how you care for your audience, or things that are easily transition to other types of work that people do, empathy and like that. The second is, in your entire toolkit as a dominatrix, is there some toy or some piece of equipment or some outfit that you think everyone should probably have, but most people don't know they should?
Oh boy.
I like that one.
The way I communicate and connect with my clients, my fetish clients, is how it makes me feel. I'm going to go back to Riley, If it makes me feel good, then I go into session with them. If I go into session with them and I didn't feel good, then I don't session with them again. So I don't do anything in my life that doesn't make me feel good. That doesn't feel authentic and fun, because if not, it's like devaluing myself. It's like a violation on myself for me to do something. So when I go in with clients, it starts with an email and conversations and on the phone and meeting and then finally sessioning. And you kind of know right from the beginning. But it's, for example, the first time I did an adult baby session, I mean, I was really allowing myself to be vulnerable, because I thought, how in the world am I going to go into an adult baby session and have a grown man drinking a bottle, me, rocking him, putting a diaper on him, maybe even changing his diaper and putting a pacifier in his mouth and powdering him. Like, how am I going to do this? Like, I just didn't understand how I was going to be able to keep a straight face. I mean, it blew my mind. And I had the conversation, like, leading up to it, like, because I had to kind of talk myself into it. But once I got into the session, I realized, like, that was the perfect example to me that it's not necessarily what you're doing, it's how you're feeling. And once I got into the session, it just evolved, and I had so much fun, and it was great. It was really great. So it's all about not what I'm doing, it's how I'm feeling and how the client is feeling. That's the most important, I feel. You know, is how we're feeling. And you're high, your dopamine, serotonin, your sexual hormone. Like, all this stuff is just flowing through your body. Clients are high for days or weeks afterwards, you know, from sessions. And that's all health. That's all healthy. So I kind of see myself as a facilitator of authenticity, self-expression, and still a healthcare practitioner by doing this practice.
You said that you don't do anything in your life that doesn't make you feel good, which is such a simple, brilliant thing. Like, that's how we define happiness, right? Is we're always doing something that makes us feel good. I saw Rich Roll talk over the weekend. He's incredible. Obviously, he's very resilient. But he said the same thing. He was like, if something feels like a burden or something that isn't going to make me feel good, I just don't do it.
Simple.
I just don't do it. He's like, so I'm sorry I haven't posted an Instagram video in a week. It felt overwhelming, so I just didn't do it. And I was like, it's a very great approach.
Yeah, and also, I just want to cut in for a second to get on that same topic, is being a dominatrix really, and I knew when I went into this practice that I was going to change the way I was doing things. And one of the things that I wanted to change was the way I valued money. And I knew that I was not going to allow people to devalue me. You know, they were not going to show up late. They were not going to cancel appointments without paying me. I mean, I really upped up my value. And when you respect yourself, other people will respect you. And I let people slide when I was a healthcare practitioner. No, it's okay. You know, now I text them or I call them or email them and I'm like, send me my money. Because it was my time that I was sitting here waiting for you. So it really changed. And a lot of times they'll show up late. I'll tie them up and like shoot arrows at them. I have bow and arrow kit. I'm like, are you going to be late again? You know, shooting the arrow. So I have fun with it, but I really did change my value and my worth. And when you become a dominatrix, you're really kind of put up on a pedestal, and that was really hard for me to take because I'm very independent and I don't want anyone's help for anything. You know, one of those kind of girls, and I had to be able to receive. I had to be able to receive. Like, I was always giving as a healthcare practitioner, give, and I wasn't receiving anything. So now my clients, they, you know, as a dominatrix, should, you know, worshipped. So, like, and I actually allow them to have the opportunity to give, because maybe their partners in their lives or someone else, they don't have an opportunity to give. So it's kind of like a two-way street. You know, they bring me wine, they bring me presents, they take me out, they take me places, and they pay me, they send me money. Yeah, well, I love your pictures. Here's some money. I'm like, this is crazy. But like, you're actually learning. I learned how to receive, and I learned how to let people have that gift of them to give. So it's pretty interesting dynamic. So it's like universal energy, you know, it's really fun. But getting back to that question about what every person should have in their closet.
Can you repeat that question, JC?
Yeah. I was saying, like, of all the tools and toys you have as a dominatrix, is there one that you think, you know, most people should have this, and they just don't know they should have this for any reason?
Jeez, I don't know, because there's so many things. And I mean, you know what I'm going to say? Power. I think that everyone should understand that they have power, and they can take that power and transfer it to someone else who wants to feel it. And a lot of women, and I'm talking about women here, and men too, you know, they don't realize that they have that kind of energy and power, and how powerful it actually is and how good it makes people feel. I mean, people are like, my clients are all, it's very stereotypical. The Wall Street executives, the bankers, the lawyers, they're all very high-powered men. I'll slap them in the face and tell them to shut the fuck up. And they love it because no one in their lives are telling them that. And it turns them on. And I don't mean like sexually. I mean, it just turns them on. So I think that however you want to display that power, if you want to get into power play with your partner, then the one thing you should have is dominance and power. It's not about what you're doing. It's not about anything you're picking up or doing to them. It's how you're making them feel and how you're feeling. And it's scary. It's kind of scary.
When you create this feeling of power or this sexual energy, how does it transform to making somebody more creative or more happy? Because I know that it can. I had an entire podcast episode with a group where they talked about the power of sexual energy and creativity. And we're looking for all these different ways to increase our happiness muscle, obviously. So how does that relate?
Well, I'll tell you how it relates. Like when I go into sessions, just to compartmentalize it. When I go into sessions, I don't really think about what I'm going to do. I just go into sessions with the general, like it's a foot fetish, it's a bondage thing, something like that, like the physical modalities. But then I don't think about scripting it. I just go in and just go with it. And then all of a sudden these thoughts and ideas and all this energy, it all comes out of me and it comes from nowhere. I mean, it just comes from space. It just comes from this energy. And I start getting all these really super creative ideas. And you can use that energy in all different areas of your life. So when you have sexting or you're texting or you're having sex or you're thinking about your lover or you're masturbating or whatever it is that you're doing, or you're watching something sexy or you're thinking, like that sexual energy, whatever that means to you, will actually invoke creativity out of space, out of like the air. And if you trust that, it will happen. Don't try and make it happen. Just let it flow. And it will flow right through you. It will flow right through you.
How do you think the people that you work with as a dominatrix, when they leave their sessions, how do you think it affects them? Do you think it makes them better at what they do?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, oh my God, it's like therapy. I mean, it's like taking them, it's like that subspace, they call it, is like another dimension. It's really like hypnosis or any kind of mind altering thing like you were saying that you were having with your illness.
Yeah.
Like you are in that subspace and it is creating such, like it's hard to describe. It's like a different plane. I mean, you're high. You are super high and you're so present in the moment. You're not thinking about anything else and you're just having fun with your partner and you're both like in this, like they are so high when they leave here. And I am too. And I went through menopause with no symptoms.
Wow.
And I'm 61 next week. So
I can't really comment on that, but I'm sure that awesome.
And I kind of, I contributed to this practice of like this energy work and all this work that I'm doing. And scientifically, one of the contributors to diminishing menopausal symptoms is the increase of serotonin. So when I'm in these sessions, like my brain chemistry is just flowing. And I mean, I don't know, why not? I mean, I didn't have any symptoms. And it was it was pretty incredible, but it's healing for me. It's healing for my clients. Everyone's happy. If I have like a sore back from doing something or something is hurting me, I go into session. This is a pain reliever. Those chemicals are a pain reliever. I mean, nothing hurts when I'm in session, and it's the same for my clients. So, I mean, that it's just incredible. I mean, for me to find this practice was unbelievable. it was just unbelievable. I mean, besides the scary, stuff of actually doing it, like once I was in the practice, I knew within, 2 weeks that this was incredible. I'm like, this is like, everybody should be doing this. This is so much fun. And it brings partners together and you're present with each other and it's great. I love it.
Does anybody else have any questions right now? I don't see any hands. JC, your hand is still up. I don't know if that's a new question or if it was from the old one. I think it's not a new one. Okay, we got one. Oh, just popped away. Lindsay, what's up?
Yeah, I have a question about how you think sleep and taking care of yourself goes into being your authentic self. Like, how does that help you?
Well, I think that anytime you lay down in bed at night and you feel at peace with yourself, you're going to have a better night's sleep. And if you're tossing and turning and your mind is really, you're fighting yourself and trying to, and I sleep 8 hours every night. I just sleep, and a lot of people do too. But I think the authenticity, like you can lay down at night and really be at peace with yourself. It's going to help. It's going to help your sleeping pattern tremendously because you're not in conflict with yourself. Like, why do we have to go to bed at night and wonder whether or not we can be ourselves or do what makes us happy or be our authentic, express ourselves? Life is worth living. And don't waste it trying to not be you because we need you, to influence us. And I think once people kind of get a hold of that, they sleep more soundly and restful.
It's life, not prison, right?
Yeah, sure. Exactly.
And it's amazing how overall health plays into sleep. There's so many different things that go into sleep. Mm-hmm. And if you can get the right amount of sleep, how much it can affect your life and your happiness overall. Sean Stevenson's book called Sleep Smarter, I highly recommend to anybody who's interested. It's not just about sleep. It's a holistic overall approach to a bunch of different things you can do with health to make your sleep better. One other question that I have is if people are to walk away from this today, what is one thing they can do or something that you do every single day to increase your happiness?
I think I do every single day. I try to have boundaries.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I try to have a lot of boundaries and I'm just like, no, I learned how to say no. And I do honestly, I know it sounds crazy because I keep saying it, is I really do what makes me happy. And if I don't feel like getting on social media and I don't feel like running in the morning or I don't feel like doing anything, I just don't do it. And then maybe it's the next day I will feel like doing it. But I think that we change every single day, and I think we have different feelings every single day. And to really value and have some worth about our own happiness and, who we are. And and like I said, when I feel and believe me, I get it too. I'm not perfect. There's parts of my day or some days where I'll be like, fuck it, this is crazy. I'm not doing this anymore. And this is a waste of my time, whatever. And then it's just a passing thing. And then you get back on track. And then the next day I wake up and something amazing happens and I'm like, yeah, kind of not take yourself too seriously. I was actually kind of nervous about today's because yesterday I did a huge chemical peel on my face. Oh, shit. And I'm like, well, you know what? Fuck it. I was like,
great.
I'm just going to have a burnt skin tomorrow. Nobody cares. So I really don't take myself that seriously.
Yeah, that's a good tip. And set boundaries.
Yes, boundaries are really super important.
And that's something like for me, putting boundaries into things like I'm only checking my email one day a week and it's this day, or I am turning my computer off by this time.
Yes.
It's amazing how much boundaries play into the way that you're going to feel personally in any aspect of life. I suggest doing it as much as possible for anybody.
Yeah, boundaries are really important, and we don't really get that in this country. We're not taught that. Our families don't really teach us that, because we're just supposed to do everything, and we're supposed to be people pleasers. We're supposed to do everything for everyone, but
Oh my
it doesn't work that way. You gotta have boundaries. And even like doing this podcast, when you got a hold of me, I'm like, no, why in the afternoon, 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
Like 8 o'clock at night, I'm in bed.
Somebody snuck that in. I didn't even actually originally put that on the time slot.
But I was like, that was a boundary. Of course I wanted to be here with you guys, right? But I'm like, no, these are my boundaries. I want to do it in the afternoon, and because this was a perfect time for me. It could have been flexible, of course. Yeah. But I'm up at 4:30 in the morning, working out and doing my thing and meditating and doing all that stuff. I'm in bed really by 8:15, 8:30 at night. Like, that's my boundaries. Like, I'm not going to stay up late and miss my sleep and ruin my whole schedule.
Yeah, fuck everything else up.
Yeah,
you should have a talk with my fiance. She needs some boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries are good. I mean, and honestly, you have to be able to, people will adjust to your boundaries. People respect you when you say no.
They do.
Like, this is what I want to do. This is what I can do.
Yeah.
Like, let's work it out together. So definitely stick to your boundaries. You'll go crazy. And I never had any boundaries, believe me. So the dominatrix thing taught me boundaries.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions at all? I think we're done with the questions. Okay. Just to close it out, to make it a little exciting, I would love for you to tell us a very interesting, or the most interesting dominatrix story that you have, just for a good laugh, and as unfiltered as possible. And then going forward, everybody is just going to, I'm going to create something inside the Gremlin Smashers group to where we can all try to do one thing per day over the next 7 days. That is very scary to us, and then report how it made us feel. And I would love for everybody to share that through the group as well. We'll talk about that there. But if you could tell us just an awesome story, it would be good.
Like a scary story, or
it could be
the most intense?
Anything of your choice.
I'll tell you one story, and I really had to push my boundaries like my fear factor, and not try and control the situation. Like we go through life and we try and control everything. Or maybe somebody else has another idea and it's not the same as ours. Well, I had a client when I was in the dungeon, and he had a smoking fetish. And I don't smoke cigarettes, but I can smoke, like, for a session. I don't really do them anymore, but he was pretending that he was 16 and it was his 16th birthday, and I was his aunt, and I was getting him ready for his birthday party. So what I had to do was shave his whole body, and then we were going to have a smoking session where I was going to tell him how he was going to act at his party, like me sitting there going, all right, you're going to do this, whatever, tell him what to do. So anyway, I got this idea in my head while I was doing the smoking, sitting on the chair, and he was standing in front of me. I stuck the match inside of his penis and lit it. And I was like, we got to blow out the candles, 16 candles. So I lit the thing, the match is sticking out of his penis. And I'm like, now you can't blow it out until it gets close. You have to wait till the last second. But you have to blow it out. I'm not going to. And I'm sitting there and I'm dying. I'm just like, oh God, this is totally crazy, totally risk-taking, out of my comfort zone. I must be out of my mind. But he did it, and I did that 16 times. And believe me when I tell you, honest truth, a couple of times that light went down inside and it was still red before he blew it out. And I was sitting there trying to hold back as much as I could from blowing it out. Now, could you imagine, like, he wanted to blow that out? I did not want that red from that match going inside of his penis, right? I was hoping he was going to do it, but he didn't a couple times. And I was sitting there really trying to control myself, and I didn't. I don't know how I didn't, but I can't come out of character. if I had come out and blew it out, then I would have blew it. I would have
been submissive, right?
I would have been submissive. So I would have been like the caretaker, but I was just like, you're going to burn if you don't blow that out. And I was like, oh God, blow it out. So that was the scariest one. The most unusual one I had some unusual ones. I had one guy used to come and want me to tie him up with a chain to a piece of furniture, and he was pretending he was a lamb, like a baby, like a little lamb, and I had to pretend I was a Muslim woman praying, and then I had to pretend I was going to kill him and eat him for dinner.
Whoa!
These are fetishes. So that was pretty interesting. Still have the knife in my kitchen too. And then I had one guy who had like endorphin kind of like a smelling fetish. So I used to have to spit in a bottle all day, like a little spray bottle. And then when he would come and I spray the spit up his nose.
Wow.
When you could go through that, then you just really are non-judgmental. Because it was really no harm done. But he had like this endorphin kind of like fetish where he could actually smell things differently than the rest of us. And he could actually smell my hormones on my spit. And I used to just sit there and tie him up and just spray that in his nose. It's very interesting. So I think if you could go, like when you do that, you could do anything.
Push your limits is the moral, right?
Like you could like be curious about anything. But it was kind of fun, and it was something that he really loved. I mean, I didn't understand it, and I still don't really understand it, a lot of it, or like where it comes from, but why am I even judge? I mean, I don't judge it. I just have fun with it, and if it's something that I'm curious about or something I want to try, then I do it. But dom work is a lot different than most people think. You think we're just beating people up and doing all these crazy things, but a lot of times it's really these really off the wall fetishes. And I mean, then it could be as simple as a guy coming over for 2 hours and massaging my feet because he has a foot fetish. So that's really fun because sometimes I fall asleep. Like,
well, cool. We've taken away so many amazing things from this conversation. I've got notes and quotes and everything that we'll try to compile into something that people can rewatch and read and take value away from it. If anybody wants to get in touch with you or find your HuffPost channel or anything like that, where's the best place to send them?
I guess in Google, if you go into Google and Google my name, you'll find all my blogs and my website and podcasts and everything is just under my name. So that just makes it really easy.
You're very popular on Google, Sandra.
I know. It's crazy. But you know what? I think that I think people just get a kick out of me sometimes. I mean, like I said, some people really hate me, but I think I'm hoping that somehow by me being authentic and doing and just living the way I live and my curiosity, that maybe I can influence someone. And I do once in a while get an email or someone will email me and just thank me. And that just makes my day and it makes it all worth it. And like one person. Doesn't have to be the world. So.
Yeah, you've definitely done that today with us, and I'm really excited for it.
And you inspire me too. I mean, I just love it. I'll be high all night. I won't get to sleep. So
I know this is incredible. Anybody have any comments or anything that you want to say or thanks or anything like that before we end this?
You are certified badass. I am in awe, and I'm very grateful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I like your smile too. Your face got a little red when you said that.
JC's doing a little blushing.
Hey, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate it. It was awesome.
Oh, thanks.
I learned so much.
It was so great meeting you. It was great meeting all of you. It was awesome. You inspire me.
I think you're amazing as well. You're like my spirit animal in human form.
Ah,
I adore you.
Thank you, and I hope we meet up again, everyone. I mean, somewhere on his stuff or somewhere along our journeys. It would be great. And please contact me. I mean, if you email me or you just want to say hi, or I mean, I do answer all my emails, and I love hearing from people. So, shoot me an email, say hello, let me know what you're doing. I would love to stay in contact, especially.
All right. Well, everybody that's here, thanks for coming. It's been a blast.
Thank you for hosting us.
Well, thank you, JC, for putting together this video. Obviously, this was a good test run, and I'm glad everything worked out well. I love the little hand raise feature. And when I get back from Africa, I will be sure when we get the podcast rolling to have you come back and visit us and jump in. I'm really excited. So thank you for all of your insight and your wisdom. And I think everybody here is going to walk away being more equipped to face their fears and really release judgments and go after these things that make us excited, which is going to mold into more happiness in our life. And then people around us are going to notice it, and it's going to make them sort of question themselves and start transforming, and they're going to get happier. And then as a whole, this energy is just going to continue to spread. So
I think so too.
Thank you so much, and keep it heady for sure, and hang loose. Everybody else, just I'll see you in the group, I guess. And Sandra, we'll be in touch for sure. And again, thanks, JC, for putting this together.
Yeah, and let me know when you're having these, and I'd love to join in as a participant or like a guest.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can add you to our Facebook group if you want.
Yeah, I would love that. See what you're doing.
When I think our next guest is going to be Dave Lent, who is an incredible dude. He's a filmmaker. But he's the guy who filmed Inside San Quentin, and it was a PBS documentary that blew up because it was the first time they let a cameraman inside San Quentin prison, and somebody got stabbed to death on his camera right in front of him. And they released it nationally, and they edited it and all this stuff, and he became a very mindful person going forward, and he's an incredible dude. He teaches creativity and videography. So that'll probably be here when I get back from Africa. So it'll be at the end of August, most likely.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So I'll get you in the group, and then we'll be doing more of these. It might even get into being a bi-weekly thing. So, because not everybody's schedule is the same. So.
Right.
All right. Word up.
All right, guys. It was great.
All right. Thank you, Sandra. I'll talk to everybody else later for coming. Right. Cheers.
Bye. Don't forget to sign me up. Bye.
I will.
Sign me up.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.